All right, ready to dive in. Today we're tackling a pretty bold statement. Google is dead.
Hmm. Definitely attention grabbing.
At least that's what one real estate appraisal expert is saying.
Oh, and who might that be?
Well, that would be Chandra Mast.
Interesting. I know her work. Very forward-thinking.
Yeah, and before you think, wait, I was just on Google, we're going to dig into why this idea is making waves in real estate, what it means for, for everyone, especially when it comes to property values.
Mm.
Big stuff.
It is big stuff, and it all boils down to this major shift that's happening right now. For years, we've all used Google, right? For any question, any search.
That's like the automatic go-to.
Exactly. But in certain fields, those that need super accurate objective data,
Yeah.
Google is starting to show its limits.
Okay, so what's the problem with Google? I mean, it's still incredibly powerful, right?
It is, no doubt. But the way it shows us information, that's changed.
Mhm.
And that's where things get tricky, especially for real estate appraisers.
Appraisers, yeah.
Their entire job is about finding the accurate value of a property. Buyers, sellers, banks, everyone's counting on that number being right.
So it's not just finding information, it's finding the right information.
You got it. The unbiased truth, not something that's, been skewed maybe by someone trying to make a sale or something.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's a big concern. And that's where the whole paid placement thing on Google comes into play, right?
Right. Those top search results, a lot of times they're ads, not the most objective or relevant data an appraiser needs.
It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack, but the haystack's all shiny distractions.
A very glittery haystack, yeah.
And if you're an appraiser making a high-stakes decision, that's got to be more than frustrating.
It is. It can be a real roadblock to accuracy. Imagine you're an appraiser trying to find those comparable properties, comps, as they're called.
Comps, yeah, to figure out what similar homes in a neighborhood have sold for.
Exactly. You need that raw data, the actual sales prices, not some agent's pitch, trying to drum up business.
So this shift towards paid placements, it's actually making it harder for appraisers to do their job, to do it well, at least.
It can, yes.
Yeah.
And that's where this whole Google is dead idea pops up. Not that Google's vanished. It's more like its usefulness in this very specific field, a field that needs data, it's being challenged.
It's almost like Google is, it's almost like it's becoming less of a reliable source for professionals who really need that laser focus, that objective data. So what's the alternative then? If not Google, where are these appraisers turning to find this information?
Well, that's where things get really exciting. We're seeing this rise of AI-powered search tools built to tackle these exact limitations. They're changing the game, cutting through the noise, prioritizing data that matters, and helping appraisers get those insights they need, faster and better.
Okay, so let's talk AI tools. Give me some names. What are we talking about here?
We're talking about tools like CustomGPTs, Claude, and Perplexity. Each one has its strengths, but they share a goal, providing appraisers with the information they need, tailored to them, free from the distractions of those, traditional search engines.
So it's like having a team of super-powered research assistants behind the scenes, gathering and analyzing all this data.
Exactly. It's a whole new way of doing research, and it's having a big impact on the real estate world.
Big impact. All right, I'm definitely intrigued. Let's break down these AI players. First up, CustomGPTs. What's so special about that one?
Think of it as your hyper-focused research assistant. It pulls real-time property data, market analytics, all tailored to the appraiser's needs.
So instead of just getting lost in search results, an appraiser can say, okay, CustomGPTs, I need data on this type of property in this neighborhood, taking into account these market trends. And it just, boom, delivers.
That's it. It cuts through the noise, saving huge amounts of time and making sure the appraiser's working with the most relevant info.
That is pretty amazing. It's like having a direct line to that crucial data without wading through pages of irrelevant stuff. Okay, what about Claude? What's its superpower?
Claude is the master summarizer. So imagine mountains of real estate data, long market reports, policy documents, all that. Claude takes it all and distills it into key insights.
So it's like superpowered Cliff's Notes for real estate. Pulls out the main points so appraisers can get the big picture fast.
You got it. Huge time saver. Helps them stay on top of trends without drowning in information.
Incredibly useful, especially in a fast-paced field like real estate. All right, last but not least, we have Perplexity. What sets it apart?
Perplexity is all about transparency and trust. We're bombarded with info these days, right?
Oh, constantly. It's hard to know what's real sometimes.
Exactly. And Perplexity tackles that head on. It prioritizes info from credible sources, and it gives you citations for everything.
So it's like a fact checker built right in.
That's it. Lets appraisers trace the info back, verify it, and be confident in what they're using to make those big decisions.
That's crucial when you're talking about something as important as property values. It adds a whole new layer of accountability.
Absolutely. And that's why these tools are getting so much buzz in the industry. It's not just about speed, it's about accuracy, reliability, making things more trustworthy.
Yeah, making it more trustworthy. This is fascinating. But how does this all connect to Chandra Mast, to her firm, Red Rose Appraisals? How does she fit into this whole AI revolution?
Well, that's where things get even more interesting. Chandra's not just an appraiser, she really gets data, how to use it for those insightful valuations. Her background, econometrics, trend analysis, she's uniquely qualified to see the power of these tools.
So it's not just about using the AI. It's about understanding the data behind it, having that expertise to actually interpret the results.
Exactly. And that's where Chandra and Red Rose Appraisals are leading the way. They're using these tools to give more accurate valuations, but also to give clients a deeper understanding of the market. They're pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Pushing boundaries. All right, before we go any further, let's just quickly recap what we've talked about so far. We started with that bold idea, Google is dead, at least for appraisers.
Right, and we dug into how those changes in Google search, especially that focus on paired results, are creating real challenges for professionals who need that unbiased, that accurate data.
Then we jumped into this world of AI-powered tools, like those custom GPTs, Claude, Perplexity, seeing how they're tackling those challenges, giving appraisers that targeted, that reliable, and that transparent information.
And we touched on how Chandramest and Red Rose Appraisals are at the forefront of this whole thing, leveraging these tools to bring a new level of insight, of accuracy to their work. Now, when we come back, we'll go even deeper. We'll see how these tools are being used in real situations, and we'll explore exactly how they're changing the appraisal process.
This is really interesting stuff, so stay with us.
All right, so let's get practical here. See how these AI tools are actually being used out there in the real world. Imagine an appraiser, right? They're trying to value a property in a hot market, maybe a trendy loft downtown in a city that's booming with tech startups.
Okay, I can picture that. Lots of competition from buyers, probably a pretty high-pressure situation for the appraiser.
Exactly. And in a market like that, having accurate data, up-to-the-minute data, it's essential. That's where something like custom GPTs can really shine.
Custom GPTs, yeah, that was that hyper-focused one.
Right. So the appraiser could use custom GPTs to pull up comps, comparable properties for similar lofts, factor in everything, square footage, amenities, recent sales, even hyperlocal trends.
So instead of having to manually search listings, trying to piece together the market, they have this AI doing the work for them, giving them a snapshot of what those properties are actually selling for.
That's it. And it's not just about speed either, it's about the depth of information. Custom GPTs can analyze those comps, identify outliers, even look at things like days on market, price fluctuations, to give a much more nuanced, more accurate valuation.
Wow, it really is like having a whole team of data analysts working behind the scenes.
It is.
Yeah.
And speaking of insights, let's say our appraiser needs to get up to speed on those broader market trends. Maybe there's a new development going up nearby or some zoning changes that could affect values.
Oh, yeah. Those zoning changes can be huge.
Right. So imagine having to read through this massive market report, maybe 100 pages. That's where Claude steps in.
Claude, that was the summarizer, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Claude could summarize that whole report maybe in minutes, highlighting the key takeaways, those trends that really matter for the appraisal.
So instead of spending hours reading,
Yeah.
the appraiser can basically get the gist almost instantly. That's going to be a huge time saver.
It is. And it frees up the appraiser to focus on what they're really good at, analyzing the data, applying their expertise, making that judgment about the property's value.
Okay, so we got custom GPTs pulling up those comps, and we've got Claude summarizing those trends. But what if the appraiser needs to really dive deep into a specific piece of information? Maybe verify a zoning change or double-check a building code, something like that.
That's when Perplexity is super useful. Remember, it's all about that transparency and trust. So let's say our appraiser finds something about a recent zoning change, something that could affect the property. They could use Perplexity to not only research that change, but also to trace the information back, make sure it's coming from a reliable source.
So it's like having a fact checker built right in, making sure everything's legit.
Exactly. It's about being thorough, But also it's about building trust. When an appraiser can confidently say, this is where I got this information, this is why it's reliable, it makes their work that much more professional.
It's like saying, look, I've done my homework here. My valuation is based on solid ground. This is really eye-opening. I'm seeing how these AI tools are more than just, trendy tech things. They're actually changing how we value real estate.
They are, and it's not just about the individual appraiser either. Think about what this means for the whole market. More accurate valuations could lead to a more transparent system, potentially fewer disputes, a smoother process for everyone.
Yeah, like leveling the playing field, making sure everyone has access to the same quality of information. But before we get too far ahead, I'm curious, how does this tie back into Chandra Mast and Red Rose appraisals? We talk about her being a proponent of AI, but what's that look like in practice?
Well, Red Rose Appraisals is a great example of how a firm can really embrace these tools and integrate them into their daily work. They're not just using them to speed things up, they're using them to provide a deeper level of analysis to give clients a better understanding of the market.
So it's not just about being faster, it's about being better, offering clients a more comprehensive view of the property and the market forces that are affecting it.
Exactly. And it's resonating with clients, people who are looking for valuations that are accurate and backed up by solid research and insights.
It sounds like they're really pioneering a new approach to appraisal, using technology to not just keep up, but to actually lead the way. But is there a downside to all this? Are there any potential risks we should be thinking about as AI becomes more common in this field?
That's a really important question, and it's one we're going to explore in our next segment. We'll look at some of the challenges and things we need to be careful about when we're relying on AI for something as important as property valuation.
Okay, I'm definitely interested to hear more about that. So, for now, let's recap what we've covered in this part. We took a closer look at how AI tools like CustomGPTs, Claude, and Perplexity are actually being used by appraisers.
We saw how these tools can streamline the process, make those valuations more accurate, and even provide a deeper understanding of the market.
And we touched on how firms like Red Rose Appraisals are using these technologies to create a more data-driven, more transparent approach to appraisal. Ultimately, that benefits everyone involved, both the clients and the market as a whole.
Now, in our final segment, we'll shift gears a bit and explore some of the potential challenges and things to consider when we're talking about AI in appraisal. Stick around, because this conversation is far from over.
All right, back for the final part of our deep dive. We've seen how these AI tools are really shaking things up, but like with any new tech, we got to think about the potential downsides. Make sure we're using it all responsibly, right?
Couldn't agree more. We've talked a lot about the positives, the efficiency, the accuracy, but we can't forget these are tools. They don't replace human expertise.
Right, it's about finding that balance where tech enhances judgment, doesn't replace it entirely.
Exactly. An appraiser brings years of experience to the table. Local market knowledge, understanding all those little things that, that data alone can't always capture.
Like the curb appeal of a house, the quality of the finishes, how a neighborhood actually feels when you're there. Those are hard to put into numbers.
They are. That's where the human element is so important. AI can handle numbers, trends, but it's the appraiser who interprets all that, sees the big picture, makes a judgment based on their professional experience.
It's like AI is the engine, but the appraiser is the one steering the car.
Perfect analogy. And this brings up another important point, data quality. AI is only as good as the data it gets, right? If it's incomplete, inaccurate, or biased, well, the results could be way off, even with fancy algorithms.
Garbage in, garbage out, like they say.
Exactly. Appraisers need to be critical thinkers. Question the data, check the sources. Don't just blindly trust the AI without applying their own judgment.
Almost like being a data detective. AI helps you find the clues, but you still got to solve the case.
I like that. And as AI gets even smarter, even more complex, it's even more important for appraisers to keep learning, to understand how these algorithms work, how to use them ethically and effectively.
It's like any powerful tool, right?
Yeah.
It can be used in good ways and bad ways.
Absolutely. And this is where Chandra Mast and Red Rose appraisals come in again. They're not just using these tools, they're leading the discussion on responsible AI.
Walking the walk and talking the talk.
That's it. They're all about transparency, ongoing learning, and finding that balance between AI and human expertise.
Sounds like they're at the forefront of a whole new era in appraisal, one where technology and human judgment work together to create a better system, more accurate, more efficient, more trustworthy.
It's an exciting time to be in real estate, that's for sure. watching all these advancements unfold and shape the future of how we value property.
This has been a really fascinating deep dive. We started with this provocative statement, Google is dead. And, well, maybe not dead, but it's definitely clear that AI is changing the game for appraisers like Chandra Mast.
We saw how those tools, CustomGPTs, Claude, Perplexity, they're streamlining the process, making valuations more accurate, even giving us deeper insights into market trends.
And we talked about that crucial balance. How important it is to use AI responsibly, to remember the value of human expertise, critical thinking, and continuous learning in this field that's constantly evolving.
So as we wrap up, think about the bigger picture. How might all this shape the future of the real estate market? Could AI lead to more transparency, more efficiency, a fairer system for everyone involved? It's a question worth pondering.
We'll include links to those AI tools in the show notes. And as always, thanks for joining us on the deep dive.